Most people want progress. They want better income, better health, better peace of mind. But wanting progress and moving forward are two very different things. Life doesn't reward good intentions. It responds to clear direction. Imagine getting into a car, stepping on the accelerator, but never deciding where to go. You might burn fuel, make noise, feel busy, but you won't arrive anywhere meaningful. That's how many people live. Full of effort, short on results. Today's idea is simple, practical, and uncomfortable for excuses, no plan, no progress, not someday, not eventually, right now, because progress is not blocked by lack of talent or luck, it is blocked by lack of clarity, and clarity always starts with a plan. Ladies and gentlemen, many people avoid planning because they believe a plan is a promise about the future. They think that if they cannot predict outcomes perfectly, planning is pointless. This belief quietly keeps them stuck. A plan is not a forecast of what will happen. It is a framework for how you will respond when things do not go as expected. Life is uncertain by nature, and pretending otherwise is foolish. Planning is not an attempt to control the world, but a way to control your behavior within it. Preparation begins by accepting uncertainty instead of fearing it. When you plan, you are not saying this will work exactly as I imagine. You are saying, if this works, I will proceed this way. If it fails, I will adjust this way. That distinction matters. Without a plan, surprises feel like disasters. With a plan, surprises become variables. You stop panicking and start thinking. That alone gives you an advantage over most people. Unplanned people react emotionally because they have no reference point. Every setback feels personal, every delay feels unfair, and every obstacle feels like a signal to quit. A prepared person responds differently. They expect friction. They know that progress rarely moves in straight lines. Because they anticipated difficulty, they conserve emotional energy. They are harder to shake, not because they are tougher, but because they are ready. A plan also forces clarity before action. It asks uncomfortable questions up front instead of charging blindly and paying the price later. What is the goal? What are the trade-offs? What am I willing to sacrifice and what am I not? These questions sharpen judgment. Even if the plan changes later, the thinking that created it remains valuable. Planning improves the quality of your decisions long before results appear. Preparation also reduces wasted effort. When people work without a plan, they often overwork the wrong problems. They chase urgency instead of importance. They confuse activity with progress. A plan filters noise. It directs attention toward actions that actually move the needle and away from distractions that feel productive but lead nowhere. Time and energy are limited resources, and preparation helps you spend them intentionally. Most importantly, planning builds resilience. When conditions change, and they always do, the prepared person adapts faster. They are not starting from zero, they are revising an existing structure. Progress continues even if the path shifts. This is why planning works even when plans fail. The value was never in predicting the future. The value was in preparing the mind to face it with calm logic and steady forward motion. Ladies and gentlemen, motivation is celebrated because it feels powerful, but it is unreliable by nature. It rises and falls with mood, energy, praise, and circumstance. Clarity, on the other hand, does not depend on how you feel. It depends on how well you think. When you are clear about what matters and what does not, action becomes simpler, almost automatic. You stop waiting to feel ready and start moving because you already know the direction. Most people struggle not because they lack motivation, but because they lack definition. Their goals are vague, their priorities compete, and their days are filled with decisions that should have been made once. In that confusion, motivation is wasted on internal debates. Should I start now or later? Is this the right move? What if there's a better option? Clarity removes these questions. When the path is defined, hesitation disappears and consistency becomes possible. Motivation is reactive. It responds to excitement, pressure, or fear. That makes it useful in short bursts but useless for long journeys. Clarity is proactive. It is built intentionally before action begins. When clarity is present, you don't need to hype yourself up to do the work. You simply follow the plan. This is why disciplined people often look calm rather than driven. They are not pushing themselves emotionally, they are executing something already decided. Clear thinking also protects you from distraction. The modern world is designed to steal attention and scatter effort. When your goals are fuzzy, every new opportunity looks attractive. You say yes too often, shift focus repeatedly, and wonder why nothing compounds. Clarity acts as a filter. It makes saying no easier and staying focused less exhausting. You conserve willpower because you are not constantly choosing between competing options. Another advantage of clarity is emotional stability. Motivation makes you ride emotional highs and lows. When it's high, you overcommit. When it drops, you stall. Clarity smooths those extremes. You understand why the work matters, what success looks like, and which steps come next. That understanding anchors you during dull days and difficult stretches. Progress continues even when enthusiasm disappears. People often wait for motivation as a signal to begin. This is backward. Clarity should come first. Once direction is established, action generates its own momentum. Small wins reinforce confidence, and confidence sustains effort. Motivation may spark action, but clarity sustains it. In the long run, the person who knows exactly what they are building will outperform the person who feels inspired only when conditions are perfect. Ladies and gentlemen, effort is often praised as if it automatically leads to results. But effort without direction is one of the most expensive mistakes people make. When actions are not guided by a clear plan, energy escapes in small, invisible ways. Time is spent reacting instead of building, fixing instead of advancing, and repeating decisions that should have been settled once. The person feels busy, even exhausted, yet progress remains minimal because effort is scattered rather than focused. Unplanned effort creates constant friction. Each day begins with uncertainty about what to do first, what matters most, and what can wait. That uncertainty drains mental energy before real work even starts. Decision fatigue sets in early, and by the time important tasks should be addressed, focus is already depleted. This is why many people work long hours but still fall behind. Their energy is consumed by navigation rather than execution. Time loss is another hidden cost. Without a plan, people bounce between tasks based on urgency, interruptions, or emotional comfort. They switch context repeatedly, breaking concentration and increasing error rates. Small inefficiencies compound, minutes wasted turn into hours, hours into weeks, and weeks into years. Looking back, it feels like time disappeared, when in reality it was slowly leaked through unstructured action. Unplanned effort also leads to rework. When goals are unclear, people move forward only to realize they were heading in the wrong direction. Projects are restarted, strategies reversed, and momentum reset. Each reset carries a psychological cost. Confidence weakens, frustration builds, and motivation erodes. This cycle makes people believe they lack discipline, when the real issue is lack of structure. Another problem is misaligned intensity. Without a plan, people often work hardest on tasks that are easiest or most visible, not on those that matter most. They overinvest energy in low-impact activities and underinvest in high-leverage ones. This imbalance creates the illusion of productivity while quietly sabotaging results. Effort becomes performance instead of progress. Planning acts like a container for energy. It channels effort into specific actions at specific times for specific reasons. When effort is planned, rest becomes intentional, focus deepens, and work gains rhythm. You stop wasting strength on confusion and start applying it where it counts. Energy feels renewable instead of draining because it is being used with purpose. In the long run, success favors those who protect their time and energy as limited resources. Unplanned effort spends them carelessly. Planned effort invests them wisely, turning the same hours and the same abilities into meaningful compounding progress that actually moves life forward. Ladies and gentlemen, people often fall in love with complexity because it feels intelligent. Detailed systems, elaborate strategies, and sophisticated ideas create the impression of progress before any real work is done. But complexity is fragile. It depends on perfect condition, high motivation, and sustained attention. Simple plans, by contrast, survive real life. They are easier to remember, easier to start, and easier to repeat, which is why they quietly win over time. A simple plan removes friction at the point of action. When the next step is obvious, there is less resistance to beginning. You don't need long explanations or special circumstances to proceed. This matters because progress is built on ordinary days, not ideal ones. A plan that only works when everything goes right is not a plan, it is a fantasy. Simplicity increases the number of days you can show up, and consistency multiplies those days into results. Execution is where most ideas die. Complex plans demand constant decision-making, frequent adjustments, and high cognitive load. Eventually, fatigue sets in. The plan gets postponed, modified endlessly, or abandoned altogether. Simple plans reduce the number of decisions required. They turn effort into routine. Once something becomes routine, it stops draining willpower and starts running on habit, which is far more reliable. Consistency is the real advantage. Small actions repeated daily compound faster than big actions performed occasionally. This compounding effect is often underestimated because it feels slow at first. But simple plans allow you to stay in the game long enough for compounding to work. Complex ideas may promise rapid transformation, but they usually collapse under their own weight before delivering anything meaningful. Another strength of simplicity is adaptability. Simple plans are easier to adjust when reality changes. You can refine them without rebuilding from scratch. Complex systems resist change because altering one part often disrupts everything else. In a changing world, flexibility matters more than elegance. Simple plans bend. Complex ideas break. There is also a psychological benefit. Completing simple, planned actions builds confidence. Each small win reinforces the belief that progress is possible and repeatable. That belief fuels further action. Complex ideas, when left unexecuted, create the opposite effect. They increase self-doubt and frustration, making people feel capable in theory but ineffective in practice. The most successful outcomes rarely come from brilliance alone. They come from doing the obvious things longer and better than others are willing to. Simple plans make that possible. When executed consistently, they turn ordinary effort into extraordinary outcomes, proving that disciplined simplicity will always outperform complicated ideas left unrealized. Ladies and gentlemen, progress often feels mysterious to those who don't experience it regularly. They attribute it to luck, timing, or talent, when in reality it is usually the outcome of orderly thinking applied day after day. Structured thinking means decisions are made deliberately rather than impulsively. It means causes are considered before actions are taken. When thinking is structured, actions align naturally and progress follows without force. Disorganized thinking leads to scattered behavior. People jump between priorities, chase short-term relief, and react to problems as they arise. This creates motion without direction. Structured thinking reverses this pattern. It begins by defining what matters most and what can be ignored. By narrowing focus, energy is concentrated and effort becomes meaningful. Fewer decisions are made, but they are better ones. When thinking is structured, trade-offs are acknowledged instead of avoided. Every choice has a cost, and structured thinkers accept this up front. They don't try to pursue everything at once. They commit to a path, knowing that progress requires exclusion as much as inclusion. This clarity prevents regret and second G, using, allowing momentum to build. Structured thinking also improves feedback. Actions are taken with intent, making results easier to evaluate. When something works, it is repeated. When it fails, it is adjusted. There is no emotional overreaction, only information. This calm relationship with feedback accelerates learning. Progress speeds up not because mistakes disappear, but because lessons are extracted efficiently. Another advantage is alignment between long-term goals and short-term actions. Structured thinkers connect today's effort to tomorrow's outcome. This connection gives meaning to small, often boring tasks. When actions are placed within a larger framework, persistence becomes easier. You are not just working hard, you are building something logical. Over time, this way of thinking creates momentum that feels almost automatic. Decisions take less time, focus deepens. Distractions lose their pull. Progress no longer requires constant self-control because systems replace struggle. What once felt difficult becomes standard. This is why progress should not be chased directly. It emerges as a byproduct of disciplined thought. When thinking is organized, behavior follows order, and results begin to stack naturally. Progress becomes less about pushing harder and more about thinking better, allowing steady advancement to become the default state rather than the exception.